Good morning, everybody. I did not plan on coming on until I took care of StreamYard. I was taking a couple of days off. But unfortunately, once again, I have to come on here and bring the truth onto social media, which is like trying to find a needle in a haystack, really. And the sad part of that is you got a lot of people with big audiences and big shows and big names. And instead of doing their homework to drive a point, they say things that really are on based on ignorance, and it's irresponsible. If you have such a big audience, you should at least try to get as close to the facts and truth as possible. Good morning, Constance. So I had just seen a Matt Walsh show, which I've always liked him because he was straightforward with conservatives, being a conservative. But today's show was a little disturbing. Now, the point that he was trying to make was that there was this obese woman getting on a plane. She wanted to travel, and she was making. I'm trying, Susan. I really am. Um, I was resting today, but I had to come on here because I want to bring the truth forward for anybody who might hear this Matt Walsh show, and I don't want them to be discouraged. And I'm going to explain. So he was talking about this obese woman that went on an airplane, and she got angry because she had to squeeze herself into a seat and felt she had the right to have two seats for the price of one. Now, I have an opinion about that as well, and I'll go over that in a second. And so, in trying to make his point, he says a few things that I think are really, I'm going to say it's stupid. One was that maybe all fat people should die early. That we shouldn't allow. It was almost like a discrimination, an absolute discrimination that should go out on through for all people that are overweight. Well, let me help Matt Walsh out. First of all, let me give you one of the largest, no pun intended, autoimmune diseases that go through this country. And let me give you what one of their symptoms are, which is called hypothyroidism. Now, I speak from experience. My hypothyroidism is so severe that without medication for a few days, I can go into a coma. It's a metabolic coma. Now, do I sit around eating bonbons all day? No, I don't have to. Because one of the symptoms for an underactive and sometimes totally inactive rather, is unexplained weight gain. Now that comes from an endocrinologist, mdanderson.org. That's an MD. Is Matt Walsh an MD? No, he's not. So to make that blanket statement about all fat people is the stupidest thing you could ever do. It's very irresponsible. And you've got somebody out there who is suffering with this kind of illness, and then you tell them they deserve to die early. You deserve to have your channel stripped from you. And you call yourself a Christian. You are far from it. Because, see, a Christian searches for truth, not just off the top of their head by opinion, offends a whole group of people that never asked for this condition. FYI, I undereat, okay? Because I'm not hungry. And so because of this, my metabolism is even slower. My weight gain was from being inactive for 6 months after 3 spinal surgeries, one after another. Within 2 months, I had those 3 spinal surgeries. And the last one being on my lower back, which made it so that I couldn't walk straight at all or stand or be active in any way for about 6 months. And because I didn't spend every single solitary moment going over every label of the few things that I did eat, I gained a lot of weight and being inactive. But I deserve to die early, Matt Walsh, because of that? Let me tell you why this was a big failure. The surgeon who made $50,000 on my surgery should have given me a before and after plan, and he didn't. So I'm not the one who failed here. The surgeon did. The surgeon should have said, listen, you're going to be inactive for quite some time. So you may want to cut this out of your diet and cut this out of your diet and cut this. I had no idea what I was facing after this major surgery. It was not my job to tell me what to expect. It was his, seeing that he just made 50K on me. But no, instead it was, let me throw a couple of pain pills at you and move on to the next victim. So now let me go on to the girl that he's talking about. I know of people who've gained weight simply because they had an eating disorder, meaning they ate out of emotion. They would get upset, and so that was their drug of choice. Okay? And so they would use that for comfort, like some people do with drugs, like some people do with sex, like some people do with alcohol. So based on Matt Walsh's reasoning, all drug addicts should die early. All alcoholics should die early. All sex addicts should die early. All cigarette smokers should die early. I mean, we could go down the line here, you know? Now, in regards to the seat issue on the airplane, I do not agree that a fat person, overweight person, has the right to two seats for the price of one. The airline should not have to pay because they don't know unless they're going to do an endocrinologist test, blood test or whatever at the when the person walks in the door and gets the results, they're not going to know the difference between somebody who has an underactive thyroid who could go into a metabolic coma in 5 days versus a person who loves, little Debbie's. They're not going to know. They can't make that distinction, and so they shouldn't have to take a loss, the airline, because of that. So yes, if you are somebody who is wider than a certain size, and that's what the airline should say, if you are wider than a certain size for the seats that they have, then you need to pay for two seats. And let me tell you, that is not just for comfort, I think for safety as well. Then the person next to you is also going to be uncomfortable, and it might be unsafe for them also. Now, you may say, like somebody like me, well, I'm not well. I'm sick. This is why I am the way I am, and yet I want to go see my family member. Why should I have to go through this? Okay. Because a person like you can get a doctor's note to prove that your weight is a symptom of an illness. But somebody who sits around and eats donuts and cakes and coffee, and drinks sodas all day and uses their EBT to go buy snacks and that's all they live on, can't get that kind of a note from an MD. I can, but they can't. Now, maybe if the airline was more open to a doctor's note saying this is a symptom, please allow for there to be two seats for one price, then maybe that's fixing the problem, to where you're not going to make a blanket statement that all overweight people should die early and all overweight people are just lazy and they sit around eating little Debbie's all day. Because, anybody that speaks like that's got the mind of a 15-year-old. That's how high schoolers talk. That's the reasoning of a child. Adults go and seek actual truth in regards to these things. Okay? And there is genetics that also play into this. There is insulin resistance. My God, you don't see the GLP shots that are, there's ads for them every 5 minutes on YouTube and every other streaming service. You don't see that? You don't see all the doctors that are talking about this? I mean, this doesn't occur to you that maybe there's more to the problem than just people sitting around eating little cakes? Did you ever look at the amount of autoimmune diseases in this country alone? Have you ever looked at the garbage that's in our food? Did it ever occur to you that if you could get two types of vegetable and fruit, one says normal and the other one says organic, that maybe there's a problem with the ones that are not organic? Maybe the crap that's in the non-organic fruits and vegetables actually cause problems with people's metabolic system? Did you ever think to look into that? Or do you just get onto your mic and start ranting bullshit that you don't even think to look at? You just irresponsibly go in front of the camera and say, all these people should die because it makes you feel superior. I think that maybe you should take a break from your show, Matt. I think you should. I really think you should. I think you've gone overboard. And unless you're willing to get on the camera and apologize for making a blanket statement like that, I want you to think of everybody that you love that's in your family, your friends, that drinks too much, smokes too much, maybe smokes pot. I don't know. There's got to be somebody in your life that you love that does something in excess, and maybe they should die early. What do you think? So, yeah, there's a lot of, there you go. Okay, let me put Susan up there. There are a lot of medications that cause rapid weight gain. Thank you, Susan. Steroids, for example. Thank you again, Susan. And this is what I'm talking about. There's people who get on the mic and just say crap. I mean, it's just garbage. It's just absolute nonsense. And it friggin' blows my mind. And he's got a huge audience, massive audience that's listening to him. And I went and looked in the chat. I went and looked. And all he's doing is fueling the very people who feel crappy about themselves. And so what they do is they use the flaws and the weaknesses of other people to make themselves feel good. And now he just fueled that. He is no better than CNN. He is no better than MSNBC. He is no better than the poisonous venom that comes out of the mainstream media at this point. Am I angry? Yeah. Yeah, I'm very angry. Because what is he going to do with that person that's struggling with a metabolic disorder, who no matter what she does or he does, working out or dieting, does nothing in regards to losing weight, and they lose all hope. And we know, we've dealt with people like this, and they end their life. Then what? Then what? Yeah, Carrie, I've had to go through the thyroid cancer tests every so often because, of the swelling that goes on the sides of the thyroid. I mean, it's just I can't believe the irresponsibility of coming on and saying something like that. And again, I get his point. And if you want to make a point about somebody coming on and demanding, and this woman was a little bit demanding, I have to admit that. There was a young girl, very, very large, and she was demanding 2 seats, and she has a right. And it's not about rights. This is not about rights. But, I have a son in Rhode Island who I'd love to go visit. And it's because of this stuff that I won't even go. I wouldn't even think of getting on a plane. And when I'm in an airport, I'm in a wheelchair. I am disabled. And so what he's basically saying is, if you're overweight and disabled, you deserve to die early. What? I just can't. I can't with these people anymore. And I think what's happened is people like him have gotten too big too quick. This reminds me of somebody else in the Justice for Micah fight, whatever you want to call it, movement. And he's got a massive audience and he just says whatever he wants to say and gets away with it. And he's got an audience filled with lemmings that no matter what he says, it's absolute gospel. And they just will do anything to make him happy and Oh, we love you so much, and thank you so much for doing justice for Micah, and you've done so much for this case. And I'm sitting here in absolute confusion going, what? What has he done? Please name one friggin' thing that he's come to on his own. I've yet to find it. But there are people out there that just turn on the TV or turn on the computer and they just find somebody to latch on to worship. And no matter what this person says or does, it could be wrong. He could basically say, go out and murder a bunch of people. And they go, okay. And they just do it because they don't have a mind of their own. Let me see what Callie is saying. Hi, Callie. This world has little use for people who are in a wheelchair or have a visible disability. Callie, I absolutely do not agree with that. I love, first, my mother in law, like I said, is in a wheelchair. I love that woman. I absolutely love her. And you know what? She finds ways to be productive. Believe it or not. You don't, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't underestimate the human spirit. You know, um, she found a way to get on a virtual world. And she's on multiple actually, and she's artistic. And she can't draw anymore. She can't paint anymore. And so what she does is she goes and builds stuff on these virtual worlds and she makes money. She found a way to make money. So what she did was she got books of from like Lowe's and Home Depot and all that they have these um they show houses, they'll show house plans, and then they'll give you the different facades on there for the house. She goes and builds neighborhoods. Neighborhoods in all these homes, and I wish, if I can find photos, I'll get them for you. They'd be very old, but I'll show you some of her work, and it's just absolutely amazing. Let me see what Callie said. From the moment you use a walker to a wheelchair, you realize that's all people see. No one looks. Okay. I get what Callie is saying. I get what she's saying, and it is true. It is true. And the reason why my mother-in-law was able to be so productive is because she was surrounded by people who only saw her. Who only saw her. You know? And she's such a great person. We lived with them during the 5 years that we were in Amsterdam. They have a 3-story house, and we were on the second story. And of course, my father-in-law would go to work, and my husband would go to work, and it would just be me and her. And I had a blast with her. I mean, just had such a great time, such a great, conversationalist. And I have to agree with Callie in what she's saying. We've got a lot of superficial people who think only on the surface, and they feel crappy inside. They have some sort of insecurity that they themselves are dealing with, and instead of dealing with the insecurity, instead of making themselves better, they pull this crap. Okay. They turn around and they come out and say, well, you know what? I'm not going to focus on me. I'm going to turn around and focus it on someone else's flaw. And then I'm going to go with a bunch of other insecure people, and we're all going to get together and go, yeah, all fat people should die early. And then they feel good about themselves. Why? Because they just took all of it off of themselves. They don't have to deal with their own insecurity, their own flaws. They don't have to fix nothing. We're just going to focus on that other person and make them miserable. And this is somebody who has a huge audience. I find that disturbing. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to take the time to go see. He's on YouTube if you want to go and see that show. And maybe you should flood his chat and go, you are really wrong about this. And maybe you need to do some reading on, weight gain and how that can happen through multiple ways other than overeating. So I don't know. Yeah, we are saying the same thing, Kelly. We are, and I understand what you're saying. And this makes it to the point where I don't even want to leave the house. It's things like this that make me, where I just don't want to leave. Yes, it is no measure of a person's value. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What Susan's saying here. And thank you guys for interacting with me because I needed this because I was so angry. I sat here like contemplating, do I get on there and say something? And I even prayed. I said, Lord, help me not get vulgar, because I was so angry. Susan says, I'm overweight too. When people spend time with us, they often comment how little I eat. With my husband, our girls joke that if anyone else in the family ate half what he does, we'd all weigh 400 pounds. I know. I know. It is narcissism. It's narcissism mixed with, um, I guess, insecurity. And narcissists are insecure, by the way. So I guess it's all one and the same. I'm just really surprised at Matt Walsh. It's just like that girl that came on here when I was talking about the marijuana. And I was trying, before I could even explain how it would make a difference in pain management, she just jumped on and was, oh, I'll never have anything to do with anybody that smokes marijuana, period, end of story. Then why the hell are you here? If you could see in the title, it's about marijuana. You came into the chat to I don't even call it like being grandiose or something, or it's like, I'm gonna act like I'm above it all. And that's what this Matt Walsh just did. I'm above it all because I don't have a weight problem. So I'm gonna make everybody who does have a weight problem, no matter the reason, feel like crap. And then on top of it, I'm gonna make a bunch of money on YouTube and monetize this. Uh, the world no longer respects older people for their wisdom. Very true. We can't forget the NWO, who wants to cull the population. More and more countries are pushing for assisted suicide. Exactly. Well, let me tell you something. I serve an almighty God. I leave this earth when he says so, not when Matt Walsh says. Okay? I leave to my assigned time. I don't care if I can fit in 1 or 2 airplane seats. I go when he says I go. If Matt Walsh has a problem with that, then he'll have to go to God and talk to him about it. But I leave and we leave when God says so. Okay. And if people what he did was he made it uncomfortable for every person now that suffers with anything where there's a symptom of unexplained weight gain. And I just think that is absolutely irresponsible. That's what I'm bitching about right now. I'm upset because now every one of us that does suffer with something that causes, an additional weight. Now I know he's talking about morbidly obese. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's an additional 50 pounds, 100 pounds. It doesn't matter. Those people that you see on the shows, which television sometimes I think is such poison, where they have, my 700-pound life or something like that. There is an illness going on. These people have given up. Yeah, I know. I agree with you, Melissa. Because you know what it is, Melissa? I care about the people listening to him. It's not him. It's the people listening to him. I worry about what they're going to think. And I don't want anybody walking away from his show thinking they don't deserve to live. And that's what made me angry. Just because they're having a weight issue, especially if it's from, being sick. That is just so mean-spirited. And then in the same breath, I'm a Christian. Are you sure? I don't think so. I just totally forgot the point I was making before sorry, truth rants. Sometimes I lose myself. I totally forgot what I was trying to make a point, but this is just a truth rant and a chat between us on YouTube, so I can make those mistakes, so we're okay. Well, I think we were talking about the 700-pound. Thank you, Lord. He reminded me. 700-pound, or my 700-pound life. Now, maybe those people don't have an autoimmune disease. Maybe those people don't have another, metabolic issue, or maybe they don't have where they've been through surgeries. Maybe it truly is from. I'd rather be enormous than hateful or ignorant. Right on, right on. Um, but they are obviously having an issue. There's something going on. And just like hoarders, when you see a hoarder, and of course, television makes it to where people who love to criticize other people because it makes them feel good and superior will watch these shows so to make fun of what they're struggling with. If you're empathetic, and I assume that most of us are because of why we're here because of what Micah and what Chris went through, and it breaks our hearts. So, when I look at a hoarder's home, I instantly think they went through some kind of trauma. There's a trauma going on. That's the root of that problem. See, smart people find out the root. They don't look at the problem like Matt Walsh just did. They look at the root of the problem, and that's what you get angry at, or that's what you try to fix. Same thing with the 700-pound life person. They didn't just get like that because they're happy or because they're content or because they feel fulfilled in their life. Something is wrong, and it's usually trauma. And so instead of trying to fix the traumatic part and then work on the symptom, they go right for the symptom. And this is why, this doctor now, and God bless him, I know he's trying to help them, but he should be working with somebody who goes and works with him in regards to the root of the problem. This is why a lot of them will be told, before I could do surgery on you, you have to lose some weight. And they can't, because this food has become a way of coping for them. You're asking them, go home and don't cope. Not giving them any plan, just like this surgeon did to me. Okay, I just did this major surgery on you. You can't walk, you can't sit up, you can't do anything. So just go home, and throws a bottle of pills at me. That's your plan? You went to school for what, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years for this? Sure, you walked away with $50,000, and I walked away totally confused. Had no idea what I was facing. I think that's irresponsible in itself, too. Let me see what Susan says here. Amen to that, Anne. Only the Lord can determine my days on earth. That's right. I'm more concerned with the chronic pain I live with. I've slept 3 hours total last night and was up twice during the walking out the pain. And that's my life, Susan. And then when I'm laying here trying to catch up with the sleep I didn't get last night due to pain, as you say, I hear this crap. And I think to myself, my God, this guy has the ability to, because he's got a much larger audience than I do, to put out there the point he's trying to make on how this girl should not be demanding anything. Okay? At least try to reason with the airline, or try to change things to where if you're sick, that there would be this help where you could get 2 seats for one. Okay, like I can't help it. This is something I'm working on. This is a problem I have with my metabolism, or going through all these different meds, whatever it is that the MD would say on some sort of letter. But if she's not sick like that, and it's just basically, because there are some people who gain weight simply because they just eat junk. We've been watching, I'm sure you guys have seen it, these EBT food halls where they go and all they get is processed food. That's all they get. And boxed food, and cookies and candies and cakes. And I hate to break it to you, but what they're grabbing off the shelf, if you've ever grocery shopped in your life, you can tell are the cheap items. So what they're doing is they're filling their homes because they only get one payment a month with cheap items, and they've gotten so used to living on that. Unless you've walked down the roads that these people are on, you really should shut up. I talk about things that I've experienced because I'm coming from a place that's relatable. If you've never experienced those things, then you shouldn't make a video about it, putting them down. Now, yeah, I have an issue with someone who has, I'm 25 years old and I have no kids and I get food stamps. Okay, you and I have a problem. Okay, if you're an able-bodied 25-year-old and you're getting food stamps because groceries are expensive, tough crap. Get a second job. But if you're a single mom, I had 3 kids. I was a single mother. And I struggled with good childcare. So I do understand what some of these women go through. Now, I don't agree with having 10, 12, 15 babies just so you could get, benefits. That's an issue. Yeah, and it's hard. Yeah, it is. And, I don't think any of these people who go on and make these videos have ever sat with 3 toddlers. And I don't want to hear from Matt Walsh and the rest who have a wife that's sitting at home. I've got 3 toddlers too, and me and my wife, we work it. No, no, no. I'm talking about a single parent, one person. Okay, unless you're one person, shut up. You don't understand what it's like. Now, I refuse to go on welfare just because of this reason. Because back in the time where I was raising my kids, being on welfare, you were made to feel like, just like the way Matt Walsh just made me feel a little while ago, that you weren't even worth having on earth. You were lower than human. And so I didn't want my kids to grow up thinking that they were being taken care of and fed, with anything from the government. I wanted them to see their mother doing it on their own, doing it on her own, and become independent, become capable people, and they have. But let me tell you something, the stress that was put on me by doing that was outrageous. And it didn't help my condition at all. Okay? So now my kids are older, and I've got grandkids, and I'm as sick as a dog. So I don't know what makes these people happy. I really don't. But I had to say something about this because I didn't want anybody that listens to me who may just, because I know there's a lot of conservatives that listen to me, that might go and listen to Matt Walsh and be, I don't know, go into a depression, think that they're not worth being on this earth and their lives should be cut short. Devalue themselves because they're sick and they're going through something that they have no control over, that no matter what you eat, it's not going to make a difference, and I didn't want anybody that listens to me, I'm going to be responsible with my microphone, and I didn't want anybody that listens to me be harmed by the irresponsible, hateful, as Callie put it, and ignorant words of Matt Walsh. And if he's listening and this offends you, I never meant to offend you. I'm disappointed in you. I thought of you as an intelligent person, and I liked a lot of points that you made and followed you for quite some time, but now I'm not going to follow you anymore. I really hope that you, I don't know, pray or grab a pear and just realize that you were wrong in what you said, and maybe, I don't know, go online and take responsibility and reel back some of the things that you said, because it does not cover every overweight person. It just doesn't. It's not factual, and it wasn't backed by any research. It was just opinion, and your opinion sucks. So love you too, Callie. You guys are awesome. I can't begin to tell you, and I don't even care. There's 23 people in the chat. You're 23 of the greatest people, and I just love that you joined me. And I feel like crap right now, but the fact that you showed up just makes me so happy. Thank you for letting me rant. Um, yeah, let me see what she's saying here because I love what Susan. For many, it's caused by disease. Years ago, they found 80 to 90% of overweight people carrying a virus when they gave it to mice, but cut calories in half. Uh, Micah's weight more than doubled in 8 weeks. I think you meant the mice's weight. You probably say Micah so often. That's okay. Also, parasites. Parasites seem to be the culprit in a lot of autoimmune diseases. I think I told you guys a while back that I've been doing ivermectin, and then I took a 2 week break, which they tell you to take a 1 week, but it's so hard on the liver that I took a 2 week break, and then I'm going to do another 3 weeks just in case there's any eggs or anything like that left behind, and see what happens. Now I had blood work done. What's today? A Monday. So I should find out if it at least helped level my thyroid stimulating hormone because it's starting to get out of control. If it doesn't, now I think I told you guys also about the recall on levothyroxine. If I didn't, there was a recall. And yeah, I must have because I said to you, I have a list. If you want the list, just email me of the lot numbers. Now I went to Walgreens, spoke to my pharmacist, said, these are the lot numbers. Did I take any of these? And she looked and said, no. So in my instance, if my thyroid stimulating hormone goes up again after this third blood test, it's obvious I'm not responding to the medication. So it needs to be changed. But if any of you want, the list and you're like, gee, I take levothyroxine, let me see if that's happening for me, I will absolutely give you that. Callie says, yeah, he chose to spread despair instead of hope. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And everybody, this is Callie Lyons, just in case you don't know, from Fitz News. So I think she understands more than anybody that when you're going to report the news, it's better to give the actual facts than an op-ed. And you know what? Say that in the beginning. Disclaimer, this is all based on opinion. I've done no research. That would have been better. But that's not what he said. That's not what he said. So, um, Susan, I think it really matters why, and that's the whole point. What was the reason the weight gain happened in the first place? And that's why I'm doing the ivermectin because mine is based on, autoimmune metabolic. And they're saying that if I treat it as a parasitic, infection, I might be able to reverse it. And so I'm giving that a try. Everything else that I've tried otherwise just doesn't seem to be strong enough to fight or battle with what's causing this symptom, which is weight gain. Weight gain is a symptom, people. It is a symptom. So it's like going up to somebody who has a pimply face, who has bad acne, making fun of the acne and not even realizing that's a symptom of a virus. That's how stupid it is to make fun of people who have weight issues. I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody listens to his show and has a condition like mine, hears those words and hires an attorney because they're very damaging. They really are very damaging, very irresponsible, very damaging. So that's my opinion. Okay. But my opinion is based on fact. I read you a fact that came directly from a medical doctor that said that there are conditions, especially hypothyroidism, that has a symptom of unexplained weight gain. Now, if Matt would have brought that up, I would have went, okay, he covered that. But he didn't cover that. He had a blanket statement for all people that are overweight. And that, to me, is just stupid. He's no better than any of these idiots on TikTok. So, Anyway, thank you guys for joining me and listening to me rant. I needed to get this off my chest. I'm still waiting to confirm the Velcro pocket of Chris's chair. I looked at Chris's chair. Now I could show it to you if you guys want to see it. And maybe you guys can see what I don't see. I've got like, I think 4 or 5 separate pictures of his chair. And there's supposed to be a pocket on there for where his remote control goes. And on the day he died, it was not there. I find that telling. Where was it? Now, I'm also trying to confirm, was it always on there? Was it expected to be on there? Is this an issue that's not on there? Okay, because if we hear from people who saw his wheelchair all the time and said, yeah, it was always on there. He always had it on there. It missing on the day he passes away is an issue. So if by chance, oh yeah, sometimes he had it on there, sometimes he didn't, and it's just not on there the day he passes away, that may not be a point to be made. So I'm waiting to confirm that. So I don't want you to think I forgot. She had her thyroid removed and gained a lot of weight from having it removed. Because the body can't convert the Synthroid from TSH T324, which, Susan, I'm going to ask for, now my highest TSH in my whole life was 93. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. A normal rate for thyroid stimulating hormone is between 1 and 5. The higher the number, the worse it is. I've had 93. Remember what I just said. 1 to 5 is the normal. The higher the number, so above 5, you're getting close to a coma. I've had 93. When I was first diagnosed, my numbers were of 54. So I go into metabolic shock and ready for coma pretty quickly. I don't think, and the joys of menopause, yeah, isn't that wonderful? I don't think that Synthroid's doing this for me either, Susan, which levothyroxine is the generic of Synthroid. God forbid the insurance companies pay for the actual brand. I don't know. So anyway, my point of saying all that is, if I have another negative result from Monday, I'm going to request Armour, ARMOUR. I've heard great things about Armour for people who just do not respond well to either Synthroid or levothyroxine. So I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated on that. The results should be in any day. Going back to Chris. That's what I thought, Susan. I thought that it was kind of odd that the remote was missing, and then this man was walking around with this funny thing in his hand. So but you know me, I'd rather confirm what was to be expected of this remote on Chris's chair. Was it always, anybody that has a wheelchair here that has a remote, if they can let me know, is it always something that's on the chair? Because I can't remember my mother-in-law's wheelchair for the life of me. I haven't seen her in 8 years, and I don't recall if there was a remote on it or not. I guess I could send her a message and ask her. So I really need to find out if that was a normal thing to have that remote in that pocket, every day for Chris. Yes, and that's what makes me angry. I did have Hashimoto's. I did, and can I tell you something about that? I was able to reverse it a little bit, at least the goiters, because I was doing the iodine under the tongue for 3 months. It was the most disgusting thing I ever did in my life, but at least it got rid of the swelling on the side of my thyroid. Now, I still have Hashimoto's, but at least I don't have those two large things on the side of my thyroid. So it blew my endocrinologist's mind that I was able to do this. So I'm careful about not cutting too much iodized salt out of my diet, because that's, I think, where a lot of us got sick, is cutting out all this salt. So anyhow, I will let you guys know if I get any updates about Chris. You know what? I'm encouraging you. Go watch the Matt Walsh show. Maybe educate the man. We're all classy people here, so we don't have to get nasty. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to let him know the truth about things. Maybe he needs to hear it. That it was very irresponsible what he said. And who knows? Maybe he's a class act enough to go, you know what? I was wrong. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. My God, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, that makes my day to know that that's helping you as well. I'm trying. I pray about anything that I might be missing, and I'm not sure if you had heard, but it was over the weekend that two people came to me who are from the inside. They're from Horry County. It's best I can say. I promised them I wouldn't say any more. And they told me that his remote was missing from that day. They found that to be an issue. So I promised I'd keep them, protected, but I was going to bring out this, and they wanted me to tell everybody about the remote. So who knows? Maybe they know better. It was, I don't know about the overheating thing. It was a dropper. I got it from Amazon. It was a liquid. No, I'm sorry. I didn't get it from Amazon. I got it from Whole Foods. I got it from Whole Foods, but you can get the same one from Amazon. And I just took one dropper, Susan, and put it under my tongue. I let it sit there for 30 seconds because it's just as good as, putting it in your vein, sublingual, and then chased it with, I don't know, juice or coffee or whatever, just to get rid of the taste. And in 3 months, I was able to get rid of the 2 goiters. I had one on each side, and they were gone. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you so much, Betty. And I really believe that God is just bringing me in a different direction of plan of treatment. That's all. I don't think the levothyroxine has been working for very long, to be honest with you. And so maybe this is my way of convincing the doctor to put me on Armour, because I really would like to be on it. I think it'll help me with getting some of the weight off and feel better. Like the symptoms of, because it's not just weight, it's palpitations, it's insomnia, and then feeling fatigued all day. It's just a catch-22. You can hear my voice very hoarse. It's also affecting my voice. Headaches, all kinds. It's just every symptom you could think of. So maybe this is my way of being able to get out from under the Synthroid train and get on something that's going to work, which I believe is Armour. Yes, justice for Mike and Chris, absolutely. So, of course, guys, I'm going to end this show with, please share the online protests if you can. If you can't, please call the FBI and call the Attorney General's office, and keep their ears open to the names of Mike Miller and Chris Skinner. What is that, Mary? What is that? Is that another medication for thyroid? I've never heard of that before. If that's the name, I'm going to look it up. 120 milligram. Okay. I'm like on 250 right now. Well, of micrograms of, what do you call it? Levothyroxine, which I just think is garbage. NP thyroid. That's what it is. It's natural, not synthetic. Oh, that's interesting. Let me write that down. Let me just save that because I know I'll forget it. Um, Let me put it in my notes here. So that's exactly the name. NP. Is this a prescription? Is it, do you get this from your doctor? Or is that something I can take with thyroid medication? Do you know? I'll just give you a second to let me know. Thyroid sup. Okay. Supplements help. Yes, I agree with that. But yes, it is prescription. Prescription. Okay, great. All right, I will look it up. I will research it. You know how I love to research. Thank you for that, Mary. I really appreciate that. Anyhow, um, also, if you haven't signed the petition, please sign the petition. If you have, please go on Created a Class magazine on Facebook and find the petition at the top of my page. Click it, share it with people that may not have seen it, that you'd think may not have signed it. And otherwise, please every day do the Lord's Prayer, Psalm 91. Trust me, it's worth saying it out loud in the name of Jesus Christ. And until I see you guys again, and you will see me soon. And the next time you see me, I will have an intro. I'll have my little brand in the corner. Things will be back to normal. But until you guys see me again, please stay safe, stay in prayer, and God bless.